And then there's one more thing with initiative. I was watching a video. I wish I could remember. I've watched so many. I can't give the credit, but I think they were running an old module, maybe Tomb of Horrors, and they were talking about larger parties. So, like, I guess a lot of times in the really early modules, they came from wargaming where there were a lot of people at the table. So, sometimes these parties had 6 to 10 players, right, in
Hmm.
a party. So what they did for initiative was not individual initiative, but sides. So like, so if you can imagine a battle, right? So if you're playing like the Battle of Agincourt, right? Like, you know, the English roll for initiative, the French roll for initiative, and then one side has initiative over the other. So the same thing you can do for the players and the monsters. And then when it's the player's turn, like you say, you could allow each player to, you could allow them to orchestrate their turns as a
Hmm.
plan, right? So
Hmm.
that it's like the rogue goes and looks, then the sorcerer casts fireball, then the paladin goes in after the fireball subsides. You can do it in that way as well. So initiative doesn't have to be static in the way that we understand it. Everybody rolls, gets their bonus on initiative, and then we go in that turn. And also you can have initiative that's all not rolled.
Yeah.
People like to roll dice, but there's a rule that says like you can just like write down everybody's like, you know, initiative and just when it's time to go into combat, that's the order they go in.
Yeah. You can make any skill or ability, pretty much any ability, static, right?
Right.
Your passive perception is the DC for a creature to hide. Well, not anymore, actually, though. I take that back. But your passive perception is 10 plus your perception modifier. You have a passive insight. You have a passive initiative. You can use that. You can also, one thing I really like as like kind of a compromise between people like to roll dice and I like the game to run faster and initiative takes a beat between the dramatic moment and then like it's okay, now we're gonna do some accounting for a minute. I used to roll initiative at the start of the session or the first you
Mm,
roll or once per session.
mm,
I've done both. But
mm.
like, all right, I'm gonna keep we're gonna roll initiative. That's your initiative order. I'm gonna roll for the monsters, and for the rest of the night, I'm just gonna fill them in where they lay.
Mm.
I
That's
do like
easier for the dungeon master for sure.
it's less work, it's less steps. It's
Yeah.
also it's way easier if you have an initiative tracker. If you have like I used to use physical
Yeah.
pieces of paper on the dungeon master screen. There's
Mhm.
that the flagpole thing
Yeah, that's pretty
is
cool.
fun.
I've seen people use clothes pins.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. You can do
Mhm.
just like stand up card, like you could fold pieces of paper so they stand up by themselves because I don't use a screen anymore, so I don't use the initiative tracker anymore.
Yeah,
But
I
I
do
could
it on
start
my
to,
screen. Mhm.
yeah, that's great. Side-based initiative, it is cool. I find it's like not as intuitive. I think because everyone's just got like 5e hardwire into their brains
Yeah,
now. But like, I mean, old school essentials is my preferred interpretation of 2e and advanced and whatever, all the old school systems.
right.
Um, but it's cool. You decide what you're going to do, and that includes the order of operation for your team, right? The wizard's going to cast fireball before I run in there and slice the guy.
Mm.
Then you roll initiative based on the sides. It's just a d6. There's no modifier. Maybe there's circumstantial bonuses some of the time, but side versus side each round, and then your plan works or it doesn't, basically, right? You decide what
Mm.
you're going to do. You launch into action simultaneously. They're launching into action. So it's okay. Do you get hit with an arrow before you go run into battle or not? And
Right.
it feels a little more true to the simulation of the chaos of combat. And it creates a situation if you're doing side-based each round, rolling initiative. I guess it works side-based or individually it creates situations where potentially someone's going to go 2 times in a row before you go once,
Right.
and that can really tip the scales.
That takes imagination. And also, I think that works better for me, it would work better with smaller numbers of people in the conflict.
Sure.
But But just one more thing back to the note cards on the folded note cards over top of the DM screen. That's useful for me, especially in classroom environments, because then I can learn the students' names, especially early on, and also in adventure league environments where players may not know each other yet. They may have just met. So now I can put their real name and their character name on the cards, and then people don't have to keep asking each other what their names are, people's names are. And also, we can determine between whether or not we're speaking to the player in meta or if we're in character speaking to the character. So it solves some issues rather elegantly.